Good evening, Living Stones. Sorry I'm not here in person tonight. I had fully planned to be here this evening, but just this afternoon, my wife tested positive for COVID. Now, she received her second dose of the vaccine 9 days ago, so the odds of this being a legitimate test seem small, but we have to treat it as it is. Now, as just so happened, we were getting some COVID testing for my son Ben this afternoon because he was coming home for the weekend to do some things for his summer job. And so we were all getting tested. So I had a COVID test this afternoon too. I should get those results tomorrow, and that will impact my availability on Easter. We had a quick huddle with council and elders to see what should happen tonight. I didn't think it was wise for me to be there because even we have to take the positive test seriously. Also, if I have to choose between preaching with a mask on so you can't see my face or preaching this way on the TV so you can see my face, I think this is actually a better way to go. So again, I'm sorry that I'm not here this evening. We won't have communion this evening. But Lord willing, tomorrow I'll get my negative test back. I'm going to keep my distance from my wife until we get a negative test from her and find out what the deal is with her positive test. And hopefully I can be with you on Easter. Jesus was not alone in his crucifixion. Two other men, both evildoers, were also led out to be executed with him. When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him there along with the evildoers, one on his right and one on his left. What's interesting about the Gospel of Luke is the Gospel of Luke pays more attention to these evildoers than Matthew and Mark and John do. In fact, the names are changed. Peter had declared that he would certainly go with Jesus to his death. Peter is not there. James is not there. John is watching with the women. John is likely quite young to be seen as a threat to the government, and the women are a ways back. But those who said that they would stand with Jesus have all shrunk away and are in hiding, and Jesus now is left to be crucified with the evildoers. Now, Matthew and Mark call these evildoers lestai, which means brigands or insurgents. In Luke, he uses the broader term evildoers. Who of us is not an evildoer? And so this sort of mirrors our good people, bad people way of talking. Often you'll hear it said that someone does something and so they're sent off to jail and people will quickly intersperse, no, but I'm not saying they're a bad person. Well, Luke is saying the people that are being crucified with Jesus are bad people. He's not alone in his crucifixion. He's in the company of bad people. And we've been seeing all the way to Jerusalem that Jesus both eats with Pharisees and the religious authorities, and Jesus also eats with tax collectors and sinners, who the religiously scrupulous considered to be bad people. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them," meaning the people that were crucifying him, "for they don't know what they're doing." So he's got an evildoer on his right and his left, and he's asking the Father's forgiveness for the people who considered themselves doing what was righteous, doing what was just, fulfilling the law, the requirements that Jesus should die. And they divided up his clothes by casting lots. People stood watching, and the leaders even sneered at him. They said, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he is God's Messiah, the chosen one." So you have the religious authorities. And on the other side of the Jewish culture war, you have the soldiers who are there to represent Rome and the Roman occupation. So you have those who would be free from Rome and Rome all at the same time. And the one thing that they can agree to is that Jesus is deserving of mockery. The soldiers also came up and mocked him. They offered him wine vinegar and said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." There was a written notice above him which read, "This is the king of the Jews." Pilate's little sneering mockery of the people that he was governing over and Jesus. This is your king. You see, crucifixion was a political act. It was demonstrating Roman power. It was showing that no one can cross Rome and live. It was demonstrating the superiority of the Roman gods over the gods of all the other nations. One of the evildoers who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Aren't you the one that is supposed to be the chief of the brigands, the chief of the insurgents, the one who has the power, the one who has the capacity to bring justice to the earth by cleansing this land of the scourge of the pagan Romans? Aren't you supposed to be our leader? But here you are, splayed naked just like me, for the amusement of both the Romans and the religious. Save yourself and us if you're such big stuff." Now, we listen to this as moderns, but there are really not that many things on the menu in terms of the big question of why things happen. For many moderns who say, well, the universe just happened to develop like it has, there's no purpose, there's no rhyme, there's no reason, there's no governance, then it's just all chaos. And any good that you might recognize as good is defined by you. It's not good in itself. And any good that you manage to do is achieved by you. There's no one else to thank or to blame. Ancients didn't see the world that way. They saw a great degree of chaos in the world, but they believed that there were powers that governed the world and governed humanity, that humanity would be subject to and judged by. And so in the crucifixion, they saw karma. They saw evildoers getting what evildoers deserve. They saw losers getting what losers deserve. If anyone on the cross had an in with the gods or with God, surely this wouldn't be happening, because you can tell the good and the bad by the outcomes. Do good things, have good things happen to you. Do bad things, get bad things. So if bad things are happening to you, you must have done something to deserve it, or even in the words of The Sound of Music, somewhere in my youth or childhood, I must have done something good, because here I am standing here with you. The Hebrews, of course, had their own take on this, which you can see explained in the book of Job, and you can see that worked on in the book of Job. The book of Job basically said that karma isn't the whole story, but there is a God in heaven who is just. Now, winning and losing are revealed in history for the ancients. The primary thesis of Job's friends is, well, if Job is suffering, he must have done something wrong. And remember, we talked about this in our sermon on Luke 15. Job is portrayed as the best man in the world, but then Job suffers calamity. Surely Job did something really bad to have all of his children killed and all of his riches wiped out. Surely there must be some horrendous hidden sin that Job has committed. And to make matters worse, Job keeps pleading his own innocence. Job did something to anger God or the gods. The God or the gods speak through calamity or good fortune. That's how you know who is righteous. They receive good things. And who is evil? They receive judgment. And to be crucified, humiliated, mocked is what everyone believed, how judgment is witnessed. Mocking Jesus, therefore, becomes a righteous act, an act of standing and siding with God or the gods, an act of being on the right side of history. Jesus clearly, by his crucifixion, deserves the maltreatment that he is getting. Jesus is on the wrong side of history. If you don't believe, look up on the hill and watch him mocked, humiliated, scorned, along with evildoers. You're just agreeing with what the gods are showing. And it is enjoyable to be on the right side of justice and to hurl insults and to see the evildoers get what they deserve. Pilate calling Jesus king is a dig at the Jews, and everybody knows it. Jesus' impotence, his impotence there on the cross, is his subject of ridicule. It is Jesus must be evil or he wouldn't be dying in this most humiliating way, and it is now there for everyone to see. That's how it was seen on that day. One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. "Aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us, big stuff." The other evildoer rebuked the first evildoer. "Don't you fear God?" Oh, wait a minute. The crucifixion is the judgment of God displayed. The book of Deuteronomy seems to say so. He said, "Since you are under the same sentence..." Oh, okay. So just pause here and think this through. So he sort of sees that, well, me, you, and the guy in the middle are all under the judgment of God because that's what crucifixion means, and yet you now want to mock? Is your mockery somehow an attempt at self-righteousness? That you now have it over Jesus? We are being punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. They are evildoers. But this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said to Jesus, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Now again, the distance between us and these people is dramatic, because just as justice is delivered in this world at this time among these people, well, that's how God deals with things. And you can read about it in the book of Deuteronomy. If you flip over in your Bible to Deuteronomy 28, well, you get blessings for obedience. You will be blessed in the city and blessed in the country. The fruit of your womb will be blessed in the crops of your land. So if you do good things, you'll have prosperity and money and good fortune and health and long life. That's what the covenant says. But, verse 15, if you do not obey the Lord your God and carefully follow his commandments, you will be cursed in the city and cursed in the country. Your basket and your kneading trough will be cursed. The fruit of your womb will be cursed, and the crops of the land, and the calves of your herds, and the flocks of your and the lambs of your flocks. You will be cursed when you come in, and cursed when you go out. Sounds very karmic. And the story of Israel, in fact, has been curses. They had brief stints of abundance, but they were always followed by humiliation and subjugation by the far larger, more powerful empires. And this, of course, kept bringing the Hebrew prophets back to ask, what is going on? Did we deserve this? I suppose we did. But will God not rescue us? That's what messiahs are for. Messiahs are for rescuing. Job, of course, receives curses. But there was more to the story than just the curses, and that's what the book of Job is about. Jesus is now receiving curses. The mockers were like Job's friends. Surely, Jesus, you did something to deserve this. Surely you are not the Messiah. Maybe all those wonders you did through Beelzebub, because God's judgment is coming on you now. And even Jesus' friends in hiding are wondering, were we wrong? But then Jesus says, Father, forgive them. Certainly, unrighteous evildoers don't have standing with God to make requests like this. But then again, at the end of the book of Job, God says to the friends, you're miserable friends. And God and Job make sacrifices for his friends. But in the book of Job, where is the drama being played out? Just like in Deuteronomy 28, well, it's played out in the seculum. What is the seculum? The seculum is the secular world. The whole drama for Job had to be played out in the secular space, within a human lifespan. God tells Satan, don't take his life because a reward must come here. And in fact, in the end of the book of Job, Job's family is restored. Job's fortune is restored. All of that is restored. Point taken. Goodness and reward come here. But didn't that evildoer just say, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom? Is he holding out hope that an angel will come down and lift Jesus from the cross? That certainly was what everyone would have in mind. If Jesus is going to be vindicated, an angel should come down and, sort of like in the case of Lot in Sodom, strike everyone else blind and carry Jesus away and send Jesus to the top of the temple and say, "Aha, I have won." Not too long ago, I was watching the Justice League, and at the moment when it seemed like all hope was lost, Superman comes in and beats up the baddie, and the world is saved. That's the script we know. It's rescue in the secular age, rescue in the here and now. Jesus tells the man, today you'll be with me in paradise. Are you going to pop those spikes out of your hand and out of your feet? Are you going to come down from the cross? Are you going to shine like at the transfiguration? Are your eyes going to glow? And are you going to cut through the Roman soldiers and finally do the thing right at the last minute like a superhero movie? Where is this paradise, Jesus, that you are promising this evildoer? It was now noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m, for the sun stopped shining. Oh, this is the apocalypse. Sun is at its height at noon. The whole land was dark in the middle of the day, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Now, Jesus had brought plagues on Jerusalem. That's what they were looking for, but the plague seems to be falling on him. The curtain of the temple is torn in two. Well, what is that? Well, the temple and the tabernacle were sort of God containment units. And if you read especially older translations of the Old Testament, they're always worried that God will break out. Because when God breaks out of the tabernacle or breaks out of the temple, people die. The curtain is torn. God is breaking out, but he's not killing the Romans. And he's not killing the wobbly Jews who sympathize with the Romans or aren't sufficiently against the Romans for the cause of justice. He is bringing justice, and it's all coming down on Jesus. The God of Israel has broken out. The sun is not shining. It is darkness. The plagues are here. And Romans aren't dying. And the aristocracy isn't melting away. Jesus must surely be cursed. Or is he? Jesus called out in a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." When he said this, he breathed his last. But those are strange words, because the God of Israel just broke out of the temple containment unit in judgment at him, and Jesus threw himself into the judgment of God. And it cost him his life. So what does that mean? How are we supposed to follow this narrative? Is Jesus evil or not? Is he guilty or not? One of the evildoers said he wasn't. Is God judging the Romans? Is God judging the Jewish leadership? Where is God's judgment falling? Jesus commits himself into the judge's full just decision, and death comes. Isn't this the judgment of God against evildoers? Isn't death karma's final proof of Jesus' insufficiency? For the Romans, Jesus couldn't prevail against the Roman gods. For the Jews, Jesus wasn't vindicated by the Father through victory over his enemies. He didn't shine like the dawn and pop the nails out and skewer Romans with his X-ray vision. He died like a loser. The centurion, seeing what happened, praised God and said, "Surely he was a righteous man." No, no, no. The centurion works for Rome. He should be saying, "Yay, Jupiter! Yay, Roman gods! The evildoer has been vanquished. The one who stands against Rome and its power and its supremacy and its glory has now died a just death on the cross. Hail Caesar!" That's what the centurion should say. He called Jesus a righteous man. How was Jesus declared righteous by God when his life was just taken? The centurion is an imperial oppressor, servant of the gods of Rome who have just prevailed over the so-called king of the Jews. And now he praises the God of the Hebrews and somehow sees in the darkness at noon, the torn containment vessel, that this one on the cross is righteous. Righteousness is a judgment when made by God. Now, all the people before had been enjoying the show. Not too long ago, when old Hangtown, Placerville, was one of the last public executions in California, they don't hang people out in the common square anymore, probably because they don't want to see everyone enjoy it. Because that's what people do at public executions. They enjoy it. They enjoy the mockery. And how much better with a crucifixion when you rip their clothes off and you can spit at them and you can mock them. We are the champions. You are the losers. And everybody has a great day at the public execution. But somehow, everything changed. When all the people who had gathered to witness this sight saw what took place, they beat their breasts and went away. Something happened in Jesus' death that they were not expecting. What did they expect? Probably expecting some of the mockery like from one of the evildoers, that when you taunt them, they taunt back, and they use whatever last breath they have to say whatever vindictive words, whatever put down, whatever trolling, whatever they can to at least at some point humiliate their adversary, and they get none of it from Jesus, and they find that deeply disturbing. The crowd has been all about righteous mockery, exposing Jesus for the fraud that he is. He failed to save Israel. He couldn't even save himself. But now the mood has changed. This was supposed to be fun. They didn't celebrate. Now they mourn. And they don't quite know what to do. They don't know what would bring them peace. That's what Jesus said. They still have the Romans. They just killed Jesus. Well, they'll have the Sabbath day to think about it. And then the same old day, the same old week grinds the day after the Sabbath. Because there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing that changes. There's nothing that breaks the script. This was strange. It's odd. They don't know what to do. They just wanted to have a good time, cheering those on their side of history and mocking the losers. But Jesus, on a cross, well, this was just too strange. But all those who knew him, including the women who had followed him from Galilee, stood at a distance, watching these things. They didn't know what the whole thing meant. Jesus had told them a few times what would happen, but they just couldn't comprehend it. They couldn't believe it. Jesus' adult male friends were all hiding. They didn't want to get swept up and be crosses 4, 5, and 6. The women could watch because they were inconsequential, as were the youth. They're no physical threat. They too stand at a distance, watching, wandering, pondering. A righteous man has been condemned. God broke out of the temple containment unit in judgment. The sun didn't shine on him. The plagues did come upon Jerusalem. Jesus did bring them. An evildoer and a pagan witnessed it and saw. But those who supposedly knew the story better struggled to see. The daughters of Jerusalem did, in fact, beat their breasts and mourn. And there was no reprieve. There was no angel that came down like at Sodom. There was no moment of deliverance like in the Justice League. Jesus didn't pop out the nails and shine like the sun and blast the evildoers. Nothing. Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. And he dies. And friends come and take the body. Was Jesus not Israel's king? There are so many ironies in this story. Yes, he was. Jesus is reenacting the frustrating story of Israel's curses, always under the subjugation of Rome. God never showing up, always losing. Did he not stand condemned? The sun didn't shine. The curtain of the temple was torn in two. God's judgment falls on him. Did he not die? God's judgment falls on him. That's the definition. He saved those who betrayed him. He asked for forgiveness for those who mocked and crucified. That's not normal. Those who abandoned him, and even some who crucified him, by not saving himself. What sort of a Savior is this? But we haven't finished the story.